Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by Bet Rivers. And we're talking basketball, of course. It's been a rough start to the Eastern Conference semifinals for the Cavs. They're down 0-2, but they're coming home on Saturday. Chris Fedor of Cleveland.com. Known him for a long time, but we haven't spoken in a while. But here he is. Chris, how you been, man?
I've been better than the Cavs, Bull, that's for sure.
Man, I went nuts yesterday. I was yelling and screaming. I was out of control. I've done that before. You've heard me yell and scream a time or two. But now that it's 24 hours, well, not quite 24 hours, but whatever. Now that a day has passed, we calm down, they come home, and hopefully they can get this righted. I want to start with James Harden because he's been so bad in these two games. What's the biggest thing here? Is it just that he's lost a step? Is it a lack of confidence? Is it just Detroit? What do you make of how poorly he's played in these first two games?
Bull, the crazy thing is, about 3 months ago, President of Basketball Operations, Kobe Altman, he was recapping the trade and he was explaining why they did it, what they liked about James Harden. And one of the things that he said is that when we go on the road, we're in a hostile environment, the pressure ramps up, it's a late game situation. The moment's not going to be too big for him. He's going to find a way to keep his poise, keep his composure, and he's going to organize our offense and make sure that we get a great shot. We get a great possession. And Kobe even went on to say, in the last couple of years, we've been a young, inexperienced team in the playoffs. We haven't handled those moments very well. The problem is the last two games against Detroit, that's the moment for James Harden.
That's right.
That's why he was brought here. And he has failed both times.
Yeah.
So the alarming thing to me is that in those moments where he's supposed to see everything, where he's supposed to organize, where he's supposed to make sure that this offense gets a good shot, because the thing that they kept saying is there's never going to be a situation that he doesn't know how to navigate, right? Because he's seen everything.
Yeah.
He's seen every defensive coverage. He's seen every strategy. He's seen every situation that a basketball game could present, and he's not going to look flustered. He looks flustered.
Yes,
and does. I think a big part of that, Bull, is that Detroit's defense has an answer for him. They're longer, they're more athletic, they're faster, and if he can't get to the basket, or if he can't draw fouls because the referees are on his side, or he can't create separation for his step back, he looks lost. And I think that's what you're seeing with him right now is that the things that he's used to being able to do in those kinds of situations, he can't against this opponent. He couldn't against the Toronto Raptors either.
Yeah.
So he has lost a step, and I think there's a legitimate question about not can he be effective, but can he be a great offensive weapon in a playoff environment the way that he had been at various points throughout the course of his career.
Right.
And it's looking like from a Cavs perspective, they might have to consider, if we're going to go in those situations again, maybe it's not James. Maybe it's Donovan instead. Yeah. Maybe it's Evan Mobley instead. Somebody else other than him.
In that vein, I was surprised and disappointed because the Cavs were big on load management all year, thinking, okay, in the playoffs, he's got to be full go. Well, Donovan, who obviously had been struggling also going into last night, I thought he was playing great.
Yep.
They made that run in the fourth quarter. They gained the lead, and then right after that, he pulls him out. I don't remember exactly how long he was out for, but it was like that was it. He pulled him out. They took the lead again, and by the time he got back in, he didn't seem to have the same rhythm. Did you think he made a mistake pulling him out there?
I asked Kenny Atkinson about it post-game because one of the things that I was wondering to myself, Bull, is that did he recognize that maybe Donovan was laboring a little bit? Maybe Donovan was fighting through an injury that he suffered in the first half. Remember when he went diving into the cameras and it looked like he rolled his ankle? So I asked Kenny about that. I said, were you managing something with Donovan in that moment? He said, no, it was pre-planned that we were going to get him a couple of minutes and then go back to him. And then I asked Donovan in the post game about it as well. I said, what were you managing in the second half? And, He played dumb the way that players are going to. They don't
Yeah.
want to reveal injuries or anything along those lines. And then I asked Donovan specifically, I said, did you feel like you needed to come out of the game at that point? Because sometimes Donovan turns to Kenny and he raises
Yeah.
his hand and he's
Sure.
like, I've just been playing 17 minutes. I've been carrying such a big burden on the offensive end of the floor. I just need a couple of minutes. Let me catch my breath, something along those lines. But both of those guys said that it was a pre-planned thing. And to me, that's bothersome.
Yeah.
Because you have to read the game.
Yeah.
Kate Cunningham played 42 minutes in last night's game. Tobias Harris is playing 40 minutes in these games.
Yeah.
Both those guys played all 12 minutes of the fourth quarter for the Pistons. Donovan Mitchell, it seems to me, Bull, that Kenny Atkinson has put a cap of like 37 minutes on Donovan, and he doesn't want to go over that. But this is the playoffs. This is the Eastern Conference semifinals. You have to push your stars further. That's what the old LeBron Cavs did, right? That's what other teams are doing throughout the course of this playoff run. The New York Knicks do it with Jalen Brunson, and the Cavs have to start doing that with Donovan, with Evan Mobley, with Jared Allen, with some of their more important players. Now, part of it is maybe Kenny's trying to play the long game here. It's a 7-game series. You're playing every other day. You were coming off the war against the Toronto Raptors that took a lot out of this team. But, man, in that minute, 2 minutes, whatever it was, it felt like, the offense completely cratered. And the Pistons made the kind of plays in the clutch situation that they needed to make to regain control of the game. So if Kenny's in that situation again, I think he needs to rethink a pre-planned rotation and just go by feel of the game and see if he can just roll with Donovan for all 12 minutes.
I couldn't agree more. And to your point, you referenced Kate Cunningham's minutes and you referenced Brunson, but if you look at the Sixers, right, who were in the same boat as the Cavs because they were down 0-1, you look at their starting lineup, Paul George, who's old, 43 minutes, Oubre, 40, Maxey, 47, and Edgecombe played 40. You had 4 guys play 40 minutes for the Sixers.
LeBron James is playing more than Donovan Mitchell in the playoffs. 41-year-old LeBron James.
That's
Think
bonkers.
about that. Rui Hachimura is playing more than Donovan Mitchell in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like at some point, you just have to demand more and ask more of your stars, and then it's up to them to deliver or not deliver.
Explain how Evan Mobley got 1 rebound in that game.
There's the basketball side of it that Donovan Mitchell tried to bring up in postgame, and Jared Allen brought up as well. Obviously, his responsibility is what it is on the defensive end of the floor. So sometimes he's going to switch out on the perimeter, and then he's going to have to go crash toward the basket. So he's playing behind Jalen Duren and playing behind Asar Thompson and some of these other guys. That's part of it. And then Donovan also wanted to point out that a bunch of the guards for the Cavs had a bunch of rebounds because Evan did his job blocking out. He just didn't corral the rebound. I just think at some point, Bull, we have to have higher standards for this guy.
Come on. Yeah.
Come on. This is a super max player. This is a guy who the Cavs had general conversations involving Giannis about at the trade deadline and decided no.
Yeah.
This is a guy who was, before Victor Wembanyama was just crowned Defensive Player of the Year, the Defensive Player of the Year. Like, come on.
Yeah.
This is the Eastern Conference Finals. This is game 2. 9 points and 1 rebound is like a first quarter for some guys.
Right.
It's a first half for some guys.
Especially
for
Wemby.
him to have that over the course of a game 2.
Yeah.
No. We can expect more from him. We can demand more from him.
Right.
That's what they're paying him for. They're paying him to be an impactful player on a nightly basis, to grab rebounds, to block shots, to alter shots, to be a third option offensively. And he was none of that in game 2. 1 rebound for a guy like him, it's just not good enough.
No.
There's no other way around it. You can justify it any way you want to about his responsibility and about the things that he was asked to do defensively and the other rebounds that the guards had. Nuh-uh. You can't justify that performance from him, and you can't continue to justify the performances that he continues to have in these playoffs. He has not been good enough.
No.
He is a they've played 9 games so far in the playoffs.
Yeah.
7 against the Raptors, 2 against the Pistons. they are a better team statistically with him on the bench. And it's not even close.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It is
It should not be.
Significant margin.
Yeah, that's nuts. That's a crazy stat because there's no reason. If you're a max player and the team's better with you off the floor, that's terrible. That's inexcusable. That's a good stat, though. One team that's great with their best player on the floor is the Pistons. And Cade Cunningham, obviously, I'm not the diehard basketball guy that you are. I watch the Cavs, but I don't watch a lot of other teams. I see them sometimes. Yep. But even when you see them sometimes, it's not like the playoffs. And listen, Cade Cunningham hasn't won anything yet. We all understand that. But there was a great line by the announcer on the broadcast last night. I know you're at the game, so I don't know if you heard it later or whatever. But the announcer goes, Cade Cunningham eats without taking off his teammate's plate. And I thought that was such a good analogy because that guy is one of the most impactful players I've ever seen. He is so – there's all these little things he does, and he believes in his teammates – even though none of them are stars, and he believes in them, and they believe in him, and they always know, hey, he'll find me if I'm open. Doesn't matter if I'm, a guy who nobody heard of 6 weeks ago. He will find me, and I think that's so huge, and I think that makes him special.
And he does it at both ends. That's the other thing. He's not, despite the offensive burden that he carries for that team, and he's seeing double teams all the time, and he's running all these different pick and rolls and taking contact and all that kind of stuff, he is guarding Donovan Mitchell at times.
Yeah, it's amazing.
He's guarding James Harden at times.
Yeah.
Usually that kind of offensive burden, the team's like, you know what? We're going to put you on a lesser offensive player. We're going to hide you on the defensive end of the floor. No, he's a plus defender on top of everything that he does offensively. And here's the other thing, Bull. 2 months ago, this guy had a pneumothorax, which I only know what that means because I watch like Chicago Med, Chicago PD, and Chicago Fire. And anytime anybody's dealing with that, they're like going in an ambulance.
Yeah, right.
It is a dangerous situation. That was just 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And he's been one of the best players in the playoffs, not just in the Eastern Conference, across the league. And that was a big difference in game 2. If you look at the end of game 2, clutch time situation, and it was the same thing in game 1.
Yeah.
The game was close, despite everything that went wrong for the Cavs at the beginning of game 1 and at the beginning of game 2. It was a 2-point game last night with about 6 minutes to go.
Yeah.
And then what happens? Cade Cunningham scores 12 points for the Pistons during that stretch. And the other thing is he organized their offense and he wasn't sped up.
Yeah.
He had good decision-making. At times he saw, hey, look, I've got an advantage, so I'm going to cook Max Strus and bang a 3 in his face. Other times he was like, all right, I've got an advantage, so I'm going to put my shoulder down. I'm going to go to the lane. I'm either going to get fouled or I'm going to make a shot. Okay, Tobias Harris has a mismatch in the post. I'm going to calmly get him the basketball and let him go to work. That's what a point guard does.
Yeah.
They read the situation, they determine what is necessary in that moment, and then they deliver. So the Cavs have been in these clutch situations throughout the course of their playoff run, and that's why Donovan Mitchell is here. That's why James Harden is here. That's why Evan Mobley is getting a supermax contract. And yet, in clutch situations so far here in the playoffs, the Cavs are the worst team. They have an offensive rating of 64. 64 as an offensive rating. They have a net rating in clutch situations of minus 56. They are being outscored by 56 points per 100 possessions, where Cade Cunningham, think about that. In clutch situations defined in the NBA by a game that is within 5 points in the final 5 minutes of regulation or overtime.
How bad is that compared to, like, is that
that is
far the worst?
Astronomically bad.
Yeah.
There's nobody that's anywhere close to that.
Close. Yeah.
But it shouldn't be that way because that's why you have James Harden, Donovan Mitchell, and Evan Mobley. And Cade Cunningham, he hasn't seen what James has seen throughout his career. He hasn't seen what Donovan has seen. He hasn't been in those situations over and over and over again like these experienced veteran players that the Cavs have. And yet he's the one who looks like the future Hall of Famer. He's the one who is playing with the poise and the composure of a 17-year veteran. When Detroit has needed a bucket in late game situations, Either Cade has gotten that for his teammate or he's gotten that for himself. James Harden dribbles it off his foot. Donovan Mitchell settles for a step back three-pointer fading away from the basket.
Yeah.
That has been the big difference in the first two games of this particular series, and that is Cade Cunningham. It's all him.
Yeah. I don't know if this is a hot take or not. I guess it depends whether you agree with it or not. But I was talking to a friend of mine today about, the series, and we were talking about Cade Cunningham, and I said, if you factor in age, if I'm starting a team from scratch, he'd be the second pick behind Wemby. Are you with me on that, or is that crazy?
I don't think that's crazy, but I would still go with Shea.
I understand. You know what? Yeah. I brain farted on Shea. I was thinking, well, he's Giannis is too old and Jokic is too old.
Yes.
And Luka doesn't play any defense, so I'll take him. But yeah, you're right. SGA. So third, can we sell third?
Top 5 for
Definitely
sure.
Top 5.
There's a reason why he's top 5 in MVP voting.
Yeah.
There's a reason why he's headed to first team All NBA or second team All NBA. There's a reason why the Pistons have become what the Pistons have become.
Yeah.
Cade has taken the leap. Cade has entered a different kind of stratosphere. Yeah. And he was starting to show signs of that. And that's the hardest one to make. Going from all-star to superstar is really, really difficult. And there's no guarantee that it happens. But Cade has done that. So far in the playoffs, he has been great. And in this series, between these two teams, the Cavs and the Pistons, Cade has been the best player on the floor. And if this series is going to change, and it is a series, it's the first to 4 wins. It is a best of 7. But Donovan Mitchell is going to have to close that gap, and James Harden is going to have to close that gap because that was supposed to be one of the advantages that the Cavs had.
The sad part, Chris, is that I think Duncan Robinson has been better than Harden and Mitchell in this series, right? I mean, he's been unbelievable. Can't miss.
He can't miss, and he hasn't been a cone on defense.
Right, exactly.
If it would be one thing, Bull, if the Pistons were looking at this situation saying, you know what, like James Harden is such a great offensive force that we have to put Asar Thompson on him every single possession. Asar Thompson is a great defender. He's a disruptive defender. He finished as a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year for a reason. He's just chaos in the form of a person. But he has guarded Donovan Mitchell more than anybody else in this series.
Yeah.
Because I think the Pistons are looking at it and saying this version of James Harden, even if he gets the switch that he wants onto Tobias Harris, we're not going to overreact to that. We're not going to panic to that. I don't think there's a player in this series that the Pistons feel like if he switches on to James Harden, we have to panic. And it shouldn't be that way. He should be able to beat Duncan. This is Duncan Robinson now.
Yeah.
This is a guy who has gotten in the past, he has gotten played off the floor in playoff environments. But even when he switches on to James Harden's not winning that matchup consistently enough to make JB Bickerstaff be like, oh my gosh, I got to take this dude off the floor. And if Duncan's going to stay on the floor and he's going to play 35 to 37 minutes, he is going to disrupt Cleveland's defensive scheme. Yeah. And he's going to make it really, really difficult on Cleveland's defense because if you have a breakdown at the wrong moment, he's going to bang a 3 in your face and he's going to yell in your face. And that's the thing. The Cavs felt like we may not have to worry as much about Duncan, the offensive player, and the 3-point shooter because he's just not going to hold up on defense.
Right.
We're going to get him in these switches and we're going to cook him and we're going to play him off the court. Hasn't happened.
No.
And now he's doing everything that he's doing offensively.
Yeah.
And it's causing chaos for Cleveland's defense.
By the way, speaking of Tobias Harris, I don't know if I've told you this story. I didn't even remember it. A guy I worked with had to refresh my memory about this years ago. But when I was working in New York, part-time, and I did a lot of overnight shows in New York, and Tobias Harris, who was a high school kid in Long Island, used to call me on the fan in New York overnight, and he would tell me about, his high school basketball. And I don't even think I took it seriously. I'm like, yeah, kid, I'm sure you're fine, And now this guy's, and I didn't even remember. And then when he started becoming a good pro, this guy I worked with called me one day and he goes, do you believe Tobias Harris is in the NBA? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, that's the kid that used to call you to tell you that he played basketball. And I was like, I was like, that's the kid, the same kid who's in the NBA. I'm like, are you sure? He's like, yes, that's the kid, Tobias Harris, which
Let's
is
go
nuts.
to Tobias from Long Island, who has a take on the New York Knicks.
Exactly. And now he's a really good NBA player. I think he's an overly maligned player. Maybe because he was part of that Sixers mix that was a mess. I don't know, but he fits nicely as the Robin on this team, I think.
Yeah, I definitely think that you feel his influence, you feel his maturity, you feel his professionalism when you're talking about the Pistons.
Yeah.
But at one point, you're right, Bull. I mean, he was a guy who was looked at as a salary dump candidate. Because of his bloated contract.
Yeah.
He started to make more than what he was providing on the floor. And then you're like, how do we get away from this guy's contract?
Right.
But in Detroit, as the number 2 option, the number 3 option, look, he has been really, really good in the first 2 games of this series. And he is consistently winning his matchup, whether shooting over guys on the mid-range or just burying his shoulder into certain guys and getting to his floater or something along those lines. When Cade has kind of needed a reprieve, which isn't very much in this series, Tobias has been that secondary option. He has been a better secondary option than anything the Cavs have come up with in the first 2 games.
No doubt. All right, what is your confidence level that the Cavs can still win this series?
I don't know how anybody could be confident. Seriously.
And if you're not going to be confident, then what chance do the rest of us have? No, I have no confidence.
It's on them to instill confidence in people, right?
That's right.
It's on
You're
them
right.
to answer all of these questions. It's on them to rewrite this narrative that exists around them. And this narrative wasn't just pulled out of thin air.
No.
Their play has led to this narrative of being soft, being fragile, being mentally weak, all these different things. You want to show that you're not those things. All right. Stop being them.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Stop having those moments pop up where it's late in the game, it's in the final 5 minutes, and you lose the final 6 minutes 18-10, or you lose the final 5:27 18-8. These things are going to keep popping up because the Cavs can continue to perpetuate these narratives about themselves. So I just don't know how you could have a ton of confidence. Look, like, it is a series. Sometimes a team is going to play worse. Sometimes a team is going to play better. I thought the Cavs did some smart things in the second half. They changed their defensive coverage. They got Detroit's defense into rotation more frequently. They started to run the offense more through Donovan Mitchell as opposed to James Harden. There's probably some lineup-related things that they can do, and they're probably going to do going into Game 3. They're at home. They're very, very different at home than on the road in the playoffs. But there is nothing that I have seen. And it's not just the first 2 games against Detroit. And I understand it's the playoffs. It's about matchups. Every series takes on a life of its own. But how do you ignore everything that you also saw in the 7 games against the Toronto Raptors?
That's right.
Where the Cavs were taken to 7 games by a team that was missing 40 points per game of every night production and their leading scorer and one of their all-stars, by the way. Like, you just can't ignore that.
No.
So if we're just putting this all together and we've got 9 games of data, always a small sample size, always risky to get caught up in numbers when that is the sample size. But we've got 9 games of data that say the Cavs have been one of the worst teams in the playoffs.
Yeah.
We've got 9 games of data that say the Cavs cannot go on the road and win a basketball game. And if they want to win this series, they have to go on the road and win one of these basketball games. We've got 9 games of data that says Evan Mobley is a net negative, and he's supposed to be their third best, third most important player. We've got 9 games of data that says the Cavs offense cannot function at a high level against these kinds of playoff caliber defenses that are long, that are athletic, that are feisty, that are energetic. They are bothered. LeBron used to say this thing all the time, Bull, when he was here with the Cavs and they were going to the finals 4 years in a row. It was almost like during the regular season, he was purposefully putting guys in these chaotic positions, in these drama-filled positions, because he was preparing them for something. And he had this phrase, and he said, I'm trying to get us to learn how to be comfortable in the uncomfortable. Do the Cavs look comfortable in the uncomfortable?
They look the opposite of comfortable.
Complete opposite.
Yeah.
And that's what the playoffs are. The playoffs make you uncomfortable. These defenses that you see throughout a playoff run make you uncomfortable. They take away the things that you want to do. They do things from a strategic standpoint that you don't see in the regular season. And through 9 games against these kinds of opponents, the Cavs have been one of the worst teams in the playoffs. They don't have one of the best offenses like they were supposed to have with James Harden, Donovan Mitchell, Jared Allen, and Evan Mobley. And their defensive problems that were a running theme during the regular season, surprise, surprise, haven't just been remedied because they got to the playoffs and they flipped this proverbial switch.
Yeah.
So I just don't see it. The Pistons have the best player in the series in Cade Cunningham.
Yeah.
They have home court advantage. They're better defensively. And they're not as bad offensively as the Cavs thought they were going to be coming into this series because they're able to keep Duncan Robinson on the floor, and he's really, really important to their offensive success. And Tobias Harris has been a reliable, consistent second option for them. So, yeah, they can cut down their turnovers. Yeah, they can make more shots. Yeah, they can do some other things throughout the course of a game. But they have to beat Detroit 4 times in 7 tries. And one of those has to come on the road. And they have been terrible on the road. And I don't know if they have the mental toughness to go on the road in a hostile environment and play to the level that they need to play to steal a game on the road. They haven't shown any of it.
No, that's fair. If you had to pick right now the NBA Finals competitors and the winner, who would you pick?
I think Knicks and Thunder.
Okay.
It just doesn't matter what happens in the East. Everybody's playing.
Whoever wins the Thunder Spurs wins it all, right?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
No
You
question
think
about
Thunder
it. But
Spurs
I do
go
like
7?
the way that the Knicks are playing.
Yeah.
I do think the Knicks are built more for postseason basketball than regular season basketball. We've got all these phrases. Are you a 16-game player? Are you an 82-game player? Boy, they got a lot of 82-game dudes on that roster.
Yeah. All right. Most likely to cause a ruckus in press row, Jason Lloyd, Joe Varden, or Mikey McNuggets?
I would say Joe, because the odds of Jason Lloyd being called on have dwindled significantly. He would need to hope. He would need to hope that the Cavs advance all the way to the NBA Finals, and then all of a sudden the NBA controls who asks the questions, and the NBA people are the ones that call on the people with their hands up.
Yeah.
But Joe has the ability to, one, have his question actually get asked, and 2, like, he's willing to ask difficult questions no matter the time, no matter the place, no matter the situation.
And I'll get
Mikey McNuggets, if there's a critique that I have on him, every single question he asks is yes or no. And at some point, these dudes are just going to be like yes or no.
I'm going to rip him for that.
It's not going to get to a point where he actually draws out an answer from.
I'm going to rip him for that. I'm glad he gave me that ammunition. Last thing, having nothing to do with the Cavs. Which of the following 2 teams will win more games in the month of October? All right, the month of October.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. Which of these 2 teams? I screwed it up. What will be a higher number? The Guardians' playoff wins or the Browns' regular or total wins? Browns' total wins, not including the preseason, or Guardians' playoff wins this year?
Oh, just by default, it's got to be the Guardians.
And
I don't even know if they're a playoff team. To be perfectly honest with you, I don't know who in the American League is a playoff team.
Yeah.
I have no idea if they can get there. And this isn't about them being this juggernaut and me believing in their pitching staff and their bullpen that's showing a bunch of weaknesses or they're terrible every night lineup. But I have no faith whatsoever in the Browns. Are they still run by Jimmy Haslam? Okay, they are. Great. Yep. So that's my answer.
And
no
finally, I can't get you out of here without knowing this. Who is ahead in your fantasy baseball league? You or Jason Lloyd?
Oh, it's me by a long shot.
Really?
Oh,
what place are you in?
4th.
And he's in what?
Do I have to say it?
Yeah, say it.
He is in third last.
Last
In
year,
fact,
you go ahead.
I think it was the day after our auction because
Yeah.
it's a keeper league and we
Right.
have these auctions and you got to bid on these guys.
Yeah.
I think it was the day after the auction. I looked at his roster and I said,
Yeah.
no, that ain't it. So I already started to put the bug in his ear about me being interested in Jose Ramirez.
Right.
Because he has him on his roster.
Yes.
And Jason's going nowhere. No,
Yeah.
he's got no chance.
So
and he's
have you
playing
poached
this
him yet?
off as if like, hey, I knew I was going to struggle at the beginning of the season, and I just need these guys to find their form and some of these injured guys to get back in the lineup. Dude has no chance. Don't let him fool you. His team is awful.
Last year, I've been doing this fantasy league. It's a redraft, 16 teams. It's been going on since 1991, so forever, right? And last year he joined. He finished 15th out of 16, and then he dropped out after 1 year. First time that's ever happened.
I think Jason is on the Sacramento Kings treadmill to nowhere at this point in time, where it's like he says he's rebuilding and he's stockpiling all these draft picks and all these minor leaguers.
Yeah.
And it's like, how long is this rebuild going to last, buddy? Are you actually going to get out of this rebuild? Because he was last year.
Right.
And it was fine. He was okay with it because
so that's
like,
improvement, though. Improvement to third from last. I mean, that's improvement.
For now. For now.
Yeah.
Until he decides to just raise the white flag because he has an honest discussion with himself about his roster. And then he's going to try and bottom out again and see if he can play for ping pong balls.
I love busting Jason's balls. All right. Thanks to Levi and Alex for producing today. For Chris Fedor, I'm Adam the Bull. We'll talk to you next time in the bullpen. See you, everybody. All right, Chris.